Wake that up.
LA's #1 hip-hop morning show is Nick Cannon Mornings on Power 106.
Nick Cannon Radio, you know how we do. It is time for a community conversation, an up-close and personal conversation. You know, we only have close conversations with people that we admire, look up to, and people who are doing effective things in the world. And this young lady is all of the above, doing so much, a true leader, a queen, a freedom fighter. Tamika Mallory, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I know only way you can say those things about me is to know it about yourself. So you may not be a queen, but you certainly are a king. We love you.
I appreciate that. And we often hear the question, and it comes up quite a bit, where are our leaders of today for our community? And I don't know if this is something that you set out, because I know even within your history and even in your parents and everything, activism has been a real thing throughout your life. But I have to say, you are a leader. If someone is looking for a leader, from your powerful voice to really being about it, really being on the front lines, you've exemplified just leadership qualities on every level. Is this something that you set out to do with your life, or is this just, kind of how you stumbled upon it? Because I know you have quite the journey. Anyone who knows your story, you've been through so much, and that activism has actually been your outlet. But now in the world of 2020, Tamika, you're a leader. You our leader.
I appreciate that, brother. I really do. And I think we're in a leaderful movement. I think that there are lots of people that I meet on the ground across this country. If I started to name people that I admire who are doing work in their local communities and even nationally, we wouldn't even be able to get through this interview. I mean, there are so many, and particularly Black women. They're everywhere. I think that moments in history come when some of our voices will be elevated, because in that moment, we're needed to articulate the feelings, the passion, the rage, whatever it is that people are going through, and to use the God-given skills that we have to help get our people organized and encouraged. I think that is where I'm sitting. It's not that I'm saying I said anything new or anything different.
Right.
I've been saying the same stuff. Like, before Minneapolis, I've said the same things over and over again. But I think in this moment, God is using me to stand in the gap, but I think that what's unique about women in our leadership is that we're constantly looking to collaborate and uplift the voices of others. That whole idea of the one single man at the helm of a movement, that the charismatic speaker, that's never going to happen again. It doesn't mean that there won't be many, but I'm just saying
that
the
individual.
The individual. I don't think we're ever going back to that. I think we've gone past that. We're in a place now where you're going to have Black trans women that are going to be leading. You're going to have, again, all the men. Entertainers are starting to get more into their voice. So there's going to be a lot of people out here, and the movement is going to be leaderful. The question is, how much will we collaborate with one another so that our message is not disjointed?
Yeah, you make such powerful points, and I actually wanted to even delve into this topic as well, because even in the times of civil rights, or even Jim Crow doing those, there's if you know your history, there's much more than just Malcolm and Martin. I mean, you could talk Baldwin, you could talk Stokely Carmichael, you could talk Angela Davis, you could talk all the way back to Harriet Tubman, and so there's always been leaders, and like you said, I like how you put that. It's a collective thing. We are a community. But as someone who is on the front line, someone who people truly pay attention to your voice and your moves, how do you decipher what you pay attention to? Because you and I, we've been inside prison systems together. We've been on the front lines. And as we know, every single day, there's another mission.
Hashtag.
There's another hashtag. There's another reason to be out there expressing our concerns and our demands. So how do you say, all right, this is what I'm like? Even we go all the way back. Like, why did Martin choose the Montgomery bus to kick things off? Or why was George Floyd the reason why we were all in Minneapolis during that time? And even obviously as of recently, even Brianna Taylor. How do you specifically, Tamika, choose like, all right, I'm gonna pay attention to this one?
So first of all, I think this is a spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's any one formula. I think you know in your heart when something has to be addressed. Brianna Taylor is a situation that I'm willing to give my everything, my life, to ensure that sister gets justice, because what happened to her could have been me. It could have been you. Yes. And it still can be, because because no one has been held accountable to send a message across this country that what happened there can't ever happen again. Absolutely. So that's something that I'm committed to. You know, I think you've got to have a greater mission, right? You've got to know what it is that you're fighting for. Right. Because and I'm not talking about just fighting against police brutality. Well, we're not just fighting against police brutality. We're also fighting for the reimagination, if you will, of what public safety can look like, where there's not a need for police officers to be in our communities to deal with mental health crises. Right. It's not a need for police officers to be in our schools. Right. It's not a need for police officers to deal with homelessness. Yes. And so I think the way in which we choose cases is looking at how it will help the larger narrative, the larger struggle, where it is that we're trying to go. Right. So Elijah McCain is a case that matters, because that is an example of why you would never need a police officer to come and address a young man who may have had some mental health issues happen. Right. Pamela Turner in Houston, Texas, was shot and killed because the people in her community, including the police officer who lived there, just probably at this point got frustrated and decided that, we're going to do away with her because she had some mental challenges. The same thing with Rayshard Brooks. Yep. Why do police officers need to show up because someone is sleeping in their car? Right. We need people who de-escalate, not those people who cause more problems. I was thinking the other day that someone said to me, well, they were rioting at these protests. And I'm like, I was in Minneapolis and I went to like 20 protests. We were there for a week. Yep. There was no rioting at all. The only time rioting started was when police officers showed up in military gear themselves. Exactly. They're instigating that type of attitude because you're showing up. You're the ones who killed our brother. Right. We're dealing with the trauma, and you're showing up here like you have the right to be more angry than we are. So I'm saying all of that to say, when we look at these cases, when we look at Brianna Taylor, we say, okay, this is a young Black woman that if we don't speak up for her, she'll stop trending. She won't be important anymore. And so that is a part of the larger narrative, to be able to show and fight for Black women's rights in this space as well. And as I mentioned, if there's someone that's mentally challenged, if there's a young Black man who like a Sean Reed, who they say, well, he was armed. Well, how did you know what was inside of his car? Right. How did you know that you should hunt, track down, and chase this young man? What is making it? And I think Nick, you ask yourself in these cases, because it's a process that we go through. You ask yourself, give me the worst ones. Yeah. Give me the ones that no one wants to touch, because those are the people that we should be fighting on behalf of. Exactly. Nah, you said so much, and then it takes it back to the structural issue. The fact that even as a society, we are comfortable with allowing slave patrol tactics to continue. Even the idea of policing, or as they call it, law enforcement. When policing was initially established, it was about upholding public safety. Then when they created these patrol aspects, again, over property, they feel like, why are we okay with a armed force in all of our communities telling us what to do and how to operate, when as just general
human people, we should know how to autonomously control our behavior, and we've never been given that opportunity. It's often said. I mean, I say this just to put it into perspective. A lot of times, you would never see descendants of Nazis patrolling a Jewish neighborhood.
Right.
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
So when
you'll never have the people who actually have oppressed us teaching us,
right.
teaching our children, rocking our babies to sleep
at
night.
I always say, if you let the wolves teach the sheep, all they'll learn how to be is food. So when you embrace those concepts of the structural issue, where all we're asking for is, one, stop killing us. Let's start there. Please. Can you please stop killing us? And then can we just get a fair shot at operating as a community the way everyone else has got a fair shot, the way people have come to this country and actually been able to live that American dream. We didn't know anything about a dream because we had to be a part of the American scheme. We were brought here as property. And
since the beginning, that's right.
And to even just fight to be treated like a human, which has been a constant fight even to this day. So when you hear a lot of this stuff, whether it's from the Mitch McConnellys or even statements that have been embedded into our youth through school as like, oh, that was history, but now we're moving forward. And yet sometimes even standing next to people on the front lines who are not from our community,
absolutely,
but they want to be like, okay, it wasn't me, it's not my fault. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, so it's loaded, everything you said. I do want to go back to one point that you said we've never had the opportunity to take care of our own communities. And guess what? I think that I would kind of change that a little bit. We did. We had Big Mama. Like Big Mama was the police. You know what I mean? If you did something, Big Mama knew about
and
it.
Did it right.
And took care of your behind. And you lived to see another day.
Yeah, and she instilled it to you and in you the right way to where those core values of community were like infused into whatever the discipline was in that man. She wasn't just beating you just to beat you.
Absolutely.
She was letting you know,
you're gonna be respectful.
Exactly.
You don't talk back to your elders. But now it's Big Brother, and that's a problem. The issue is that we've been trained to take Big Mama out of the community and to replace her with Big Brother, who is the system looking over all of the elements of our community. And I think that's what we have to change. When I'm out on the front line and there are people, that's why I kept saying, I understand some people who may have felt that this was a good moment for them to go out and get their reparations, if you will. We're going to go take some stuff from Target and from this place and that place. I don't agree with it. And I would tell any young person and will continue to tell people that being out in the streets looting, it only helps them change the narrative. It helps them on the 6 o'clock news to change the narrative. But I also have said to young folks, also be mindful of who's helping to crack the door open to the company or, to the store. Who's setting the fires? Because it's not always people that look like us. It's people who are marching next to you, who are trying to be your friend. They're acting like they're supporting you, but actually they are there to be a distraction, to cause problems and to change the narrative and to cause dissension in the movement. So we have to be very wise about these people who want to be allies, because even in the concept of this whole Karen discussion, you've got women, white women, who are showing up with their Black Lives Matter t-shirt on. They're all in it, but they will call the cops on Nick Cannon with that hoodie on his head.
Facts.
In a second. And make up some stories. So, so we have to be careful that, yes, we need allies. We definitely do. I'm not trying to say we don't, but we also need to ensure that these people are being put to some type of test and that they're being educated so that they are not becoming more of a problem in our work than or being more harmful than helpful. And I think that's a part of what I'm writing about that right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you bring up a great point, because I've been on this, and it's even one of the things where I actually even, as much as I've supported it throughout the years and when it first started, I actually have fallen back from even using the term Black Lives Matter, because I often feel like now that's become a distraction. That's become a cool, fun thing to say or do, and my life, my oppression, the 400 years of oppression is never trendy. It's never the thing. It should never feel like a hang out with my black friends free card. So what we see a lot of corporate America, saying they're donating to Black Lives Matter, whatever that means. And then even it's almost used as like, hey, I believe Black Lives Matter, and I don't know, like you said, education. If that's your entry point, I'm totally fine with that, and cool. But when that becomes like the trendy thing to do, when protests become like Coachella, and people just want to go and hang out, how do you decipher between that? How is one to know? And even if you are a kid of another community but want to truly learn and educate, what is that process?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And I don't want to get myself in trouble on here, because I'll start telling the truth, and then there we go.
You just blame it on me. They get me in trouble all the time. I'll take it.
It's like, it has become trendy for some people. And I don't know if I need you to say Black Lives Matter as much as I need you to say that white supremacy has to be addressed.
Talk about it.
I think that's the real issue is, speak to your existence and what you can actually do to dismantle white supremacy, because your people created it and you benefit from it. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to be challenging white people about. I promise you, that'll make them feel a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah, that makes them uncomfortable, because then that's when those conversations like, I didn't do it, I have nothing to do with it, but they don't understand that they benefit from it. And the fact that I'm on my knees only makes you look taller. So, and understand, like, we've never been able to start from the same starting line in this race. And if you can't say, well, at least let's acknowledge that. Let's
acknowledge it.
And then maybe you can allow me to catch up, and then we can run together. But right now, you have such an advantage. So
advances
for you to not even want to know my history, for you not to even want to know the lineage, and to say, oh, well, that happened in a generation before me. It was so to all of these treaties that this government is built upon that we still are oppressed by daily. Well, let's start everything. Let's push reset on everything if that's the case.
Yeah, but you cook your macaroni and cheese based upon grandmama's recipe. So don't try to act like, all of a sudden it's a
just
new
popped
world.
out of here.
Right. You get a cold right now, you're going to go in there and get the remedy that your great grandmother passed down. And so that means that we benefit from whatever our elders instilled in our families. And we have a responsibility to unlearn and dismantle some of that stuff. And so I don't accept from white people the idea that, well, it wasn't me. I want to see white people walking around with T-shirts on that says, I participate in white supremacy. Like, I know that. And I'm working hard to dismantle it. Like, acknowledge your shit. You don't need to worry about mine.
I heard that. Now, and rightly so, even within our own community. And this is definitely not that. Well, what about black on black crimes conversation? Because like that's not, me. I'm not on that. Even though that's thrown. And every time somebody say that to me, I was like, well, what about white on white lies? We talk about the white savagery and violence that's been going on, that this entire country was built on, that we disguise.
And what about the fact that 86% of white people who were killed, they died because another white person killed them?
Exactly. So, but the one thing about accountability I will agree with and stand firm on, and I actually want to talk to you about this, because even within our own community, the oppression of black women, and I've personally been trying to put up an effort and grow in the world of utilizing my platform, allowing strong women to speak and lead us and guide us and teach us, as Big Mama has always done, and people like yourself have such a prominent voice. But I look to myself, I look within, I look to our community of how we do treat our women like second-class citizens. And if you're the second-class citizens of the second-class citizen, I believe it's been tough. I mean, I've recently had some conversations about colorism that shed a light on so many things within corporate America, within media, but even in what we do as activists or people who on the front line. Do you experience people looking at you as like, oh, that's the angry black woman, that's just a black girl?
Yes.
Like even within some of the hierarchy of this, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I say, yeah, hell yeah. I'm as angry as I can get. I'm the angriest black woman you ever met in your life. And you keep and every time y'all mess with me, I turn up some more. I'm more angry. That's right.
That.
I don't run from it because guess what? There's nothing that we as black women can do to please the world. Everywhere we turn, everything we do, we got a bad attitude. You know, we're hard to work with.
Right.
You know, we have too many demands. You know, there's always going to be something. And so I think the best thing that we can do is just walk in our truth. And it is my truth that I am angry. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm a pretty smart girl. And my time is being dedicated to fighting against racist and bigotry and fascism. And I should be somewhere, you know, on a beach, relaxing in between my, you know, corporate job and life. Exactly. You know, but that's not my reality. And it's a lot of other people who are being pulled and challenged, a lot of black women to go from taking care of their families to streets, to the front line on streets where tear gas and rubber bullets are being thrown because we're trying to fight for future generations. So hell yeah, we're angry. You know,
and I would even say anger is mistaken for strength and resilience, like utilizing your powerful voice. It's angry and scary to them, to the opposition, because and then when we see their aggression, but their aggression has no substance. Their aggression it comes from fear. Our aggression and anger comes from you've been standing on my back for years, and I'm just screaming, let me get up.
That's right. Well, also, their aggression is not just misdirected or without cause. Their aggression is protected. America actually protects a white man or a white woman who's angry or who feels that
they can pull up with guns to the Capitol.
They can do whatever they want. They can question you, and the system accommodates them. And in our situation, we know that our anger is criminalized and we could die for it. So you have to really, this work.
Say that, Nick, our anger is criminalized. Wow. I don't know how powerful that statement is right there. Our anger is criminalized. It is.
And you know what, Nick? This work is not for the faint at heart. It's not. It's just not. If you have thin skin, you should probably donate to some causes.
Right.
And relax, you know, because you can't be on the front line of this, you know, being afraid that my job is going to find out or what are my friends going to think. You got to be ready to get fired. You got to be ready to get to have no friends. Because sometimes I see my friends and they're out and they're hanging out and having a good time. And I'm like, well, why did anyone invite me? But you know why? Because they don't feel like having me.
I don't want to have that. Tamika gonna be talking about black people and all of that and voting the whole time. I just want to drink, girl.
I just want to have a good time. Which, by the way, I do that also. Okay, so be clear. I know how to go out, have a good time, have a drink, do my twerk. I can do all of that. But in between, I am going to ask you, hey, did we get Ray registered to vote? I am going to ask that question. And you know, life goes. And the thing I will say, because I don't want to scare people away from the movement, we need you. But I will say this, know that things shift. And the person who today is looked down upon, you know, everybody's afraid, they don't want to talk to you, they don't want to be around you. At some point, when the shit hits the fan and it's really real, that person becomes your first call. Right. That's who you really want to be at the table and in the rooms. And so I think for folks who are considering leadership or being an activist and they're like, yo, I'm really feeling it, but I'm worried about how I will be perceived. Just know that the first will be last and the last will be first. It ain't going to be good in the beginning. Trust me, you're going to feel it. But eventually the people around you will say, I realize that what you've been trying to tell me is right.
Now, specifically, as the men in our community, how do we support you in this? And how, just trying to understand uplifting our black women, but especially our black women who are leading the charge within this movement. Because again, holding ourselves accountable, just really wanting to know, like, all right, we hear you marching, speaking, chanting for us, demanding change, but within the community, what can we do to really support each other, regardless of what's going on outside of the culture?
Well, it's some things we got to get rid of. And I think in our communities, we as Black people and Black men specifically have to also look at how they dismantle patriarchy and dismantle these.
Is that possible, Tamika, though? Let's keep it a stack. We know sexism is the greatest travesty to the human race.
Absolutely.
So
I think it's more powerful than racism to me.
It is. How do we get, again, because of that hierarchy, you just even calling God is a man, God he our Father, like, even those things, those concepts are embedded from birth, that we always feel like the man is superior over women. There's even religions that teach that. So it's that's going to be a difficult one to convince a whole generation that women are just as equal as men, because in every aspect we are things are changing. We're hearing the conversations, but in an everyday life, it's that's not the case.
But it's about intentionality, right? It's about, Nick Cannon, you get a movie deal or whatever, and you check in with the women that are in similar roles to figure out if how much they're being paid.
Making
and
sure
then
equality
demanding
and pay.
that, listen,
right.
We all going to get paid the same, or it's going to be comparable, if you will. But it's definitely not going to be that because I'm a man, you paying me all this extra money. And it comes from the person who's benefiting. That's the person who has to sound the alarm that this is a problem.
When we finally get a woman leader in this country, I can't wait to tell my daughter that there's a woman president. I want to see that happen in my lifetime.
Listen, did getting a Black president stop police brutality?
It made it worse.
It did not.
It brought the pimple to the surface.
But that's okay, because it does have to come to the surface, and it might be painful, which we're in that period now, but it's popping. Yeah. We feel the pimple popping.
Yeah, so woman leadership in government. Again, some of our strongest voices that I know in government are
Maxine
the women.
Waters, Alexandria Ocasio. It goes on. Ilhan Omar, all the four, what do they call them? The squad. They're extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Extremely. Yeah, they give me so much hope. But there are people that, Maxine Waters may not be a member of the squad, but she sure has
OG.
Squad quality.
That's the OG.
Yvette Clarke, Barbara Lee. There's many. Like I said, we're in a leaderful time. If you sit there and say there's no leaders, you're not looking hard enough.
You're not paying attention.
The leader may not be this man that's on TV nationally like Dr. King or Reverend Jackson. The leader may be literally on your local street corner doing amazing work, feeding people and organizing.
And she is most likely a woman.
And most likely it's a Black woman.
I heard that, and there's so many things that we can discuss. I don't want to miss the topic, because I actually have a sincere question, because I really admired the movement that you put together for Brianna Taylor in Louisville. I specifically, as I step back and watch this, because again, it's starting to become trendy, and some people are not handling it correctly, as I may say, using it as the Justice for Brianna hashtags. But what you did specifically, I felt the pressure, and I felt like, I was like, oh yeah, it's change is about to happen. But then again, when I see the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron.
He think I'm playing with him.
Yeah, like, come on, and he one of us, and I feel like they put him on this case. Like, I felt like his superiors were like, oh, you go handle this because you Black, and you know how to speak to them, and that at least that give us a few more weeks.
That's
And
what
I
they
mean,
do.
do what you do in your personal life, but I see my man got a little party pictures and
Little
stuff.
shorty,
Yeah,
we ain't doing that.
but I'm just saying, like, yo, we demand, and he said himself, we're doing a thorough investigation. It takes time. It didn't take time to kill her. It didn't take time to murder her. So what?
It always takes times when it comes to police officers.
Why isn't he speaking to us?
Time with us because they lock us up, charge us, and damn near convict us in the same night.
Same night. When have you had a chance to talk to old boy?
No, I haven't. But I'm hearing from people that
he's too busy off honeymoon.
Yeah, that his office is saying after the holidays they will have some announcements about different things that they intend to do. I don't think that they're intending to do much.
These are intelligent people, Tamika. So I'm saying, like, either they insulting our intelligence,
right,
or they just
they are.
Again, because you're gonna put a black man in front of us to say, I'm gonna go investigate this and make sure this is handled correctly, and then nothing happens. And
nothing.
I mean, I have no faith in law enforcement or the government. But again, like, all right, you threw your guy out there you think he gonna calm the waters, and then it makes it worse.
It's nothing. Listen, I'm not surprised. Because unfortunately, too often, this is what they do with black folks who become token Negroes that are used to stand in the gap for white supremacists.
Right.
Like, that literally is what happens. But what I know is that this system.
And why would he allow that? Like, I've seen other interviews of him, and he's trying to stand firm.
Nah,
like,
but
why you gonna let them use you like the puppet?
He's up that that's a whole different. That is a discussion on self-hate that we are not. He has cousins
fighting for the job. He appreciate the job opposed to appreciating the culture.
That's the whole thing. But what I am saying though is that this system will conform to pressure if we apply it properly.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. How do we get past him to really get something done?
We can't think that a few marches and a few campaigns is going to change anything. It never has, and it never will.
Right.
We've got to be willing to sacrifice just as much as we're asking other people to do for our communities. We have to show them that they have to, that we're not going away. And like, we're willing to put it all on the line. So for me, I'm like thinking to myself, do I need to go chain myself to Daniel Cameron's house?
Hey, I'll be there with you. Let me know when we pull it up. I'll be there with you.
And I'm serious.
That's real talk. And in a way, because there's a few things. I mean, because to me, to fire some officers from a job is not, people get fired every day. Get them out of here. Like, that part is easy.
That's human resources.
Yeah.
That's human resources. That's not human rights.
Yeah. And then, okay, let's try them in public opinion, in front of a jury of their peers. And then in that case, we'll see what it is. But we clearly see a young lady, an innocent young lady, lost their lives.
EMT worker. You can take your life, man. An EMT worker.
And people are acting like it didn't happen. I don't know. My heart is broken, but again, in that measure,
don't trust me. We won't lay down on Brianna Taylor.
If
we don't fight for her, then who the hell we fighting?
And again, that's why I go back to you fighting for somebody different every day. And one, I appreciate that. I know your feet may be weary, as Dr. King says, but your soul will forever be rejuvenated through your process.
Well, the difference between this generation and Dr. King's generation is that my feet are usually in some fly ass sneakers.
Facts.
Because I ain't out here with the hard bottom.
With the hard bottom shoes.
Smart. Nah.
Yeah, and shouts out to everybody out there that's out there with you, from my son to I know y'all stay on the movement, y'all stay on the grind, all across the country. And
my son loves you. He's always saying he watches you, he follows you.
Likewise.
He's always saying something positive about your move.
Yeah. Nah, I'm right there with you. And when we get back to New York together, we got a lot of work to do and make those moves going. Like I feel like, again.
Well, I'm gonna see you in Kentucky because you just said you're gonna chain yourself.
Oh, facts. Tell me when. That's say less. I'm right there with you. Tell me when to show up.
These people want me to come on so we could go do a photo shoot. But I love and appreciate you so much, Nick. Thank you for having me on today.
Anytime. I appreciate your voice, and we got to do this some more.
let's do it. Anytime you want, I'm here, and I'll reach out to you when we have things we want to share as well.
Indeed. Take care. Keep leading.
Peace.
Love.
Thank you.